day and welcome to this session on informal procurement procedures. By the end of this session, you should be able to explain what informal procurement procedures are, as well as describe the procurement processes under informal procurement. So, informal procurement procedures are characterized by conducting procurement by not using rigorous procurement approaches. So unlike formal procurement procedures that are supposed to comply with a given established criteria or a given established plan, informal procurement procedures are much flexible than formal procurement procedures. So informal procurement procedures are conducted using specific procedures which are not as rigorous as formal procurement procedures, but they still provide for competition, and they are usually applicable when the value of the purchase that is required by the procuring entity is larger than or is less than the small purchase threshold that has been stipulated in the given regulations. So you should note that even though informal procurement procedures are not restricted to any clear laid down procedures or guidelines, you should be free from practices that are against competition. So informal procurement procedures should facilitate competition regardless of the fact that it is not within the remit of the formal procurement procedures. So informal procurement procedures are undertaken by following these steps. So firstly, price quotations are obtained from an adequate number of qualified sources. So usually the generally acceptable number of suppliers that you can accept or receive quotations from is 3, even though you can receive more than 3. And receiving more than 3 is a clear indication of the fact that you want to promote competition. And you select these suppliers who, by considering their eligibility and their willingness as well as capacity to supply the given item that is required under the procurement process. And it should be noted that the eligibility of the suppliers is usually determined by whether they can meet the licensing or certification requirements of the service or good that they are providing to their entity. Then secondly, the procurement entity must provide the request for quotation document to the potential suppliers to enable them to provide appropriate submissions. And these documents should be as simple and clear as possible while providing the necessary information that the suppliers would require to enable them to respond accordingly. The typical content of this document is that it should include a description of the goods or services that the organization needs, including the quantity, certification required, if any, or the licensing that is expected. Then, thirdly, price quotations must be obtained from the potential suppliers, with the price or quotation being valid for a specified period of time. The price quotation must be in writing and must identify all the pertinent details of the transaction. Then there should be negotiation of price and terms at this stage. It should be noted that all suppliers should be treated fairly and given the same opportunity to match or better their terms and conditions. Then practices and procedures that prevent or inhibit full and open competition must be avoided as much as possible. Then you must keep appropriate records for all procurement transactions in terms of informal procurement procedures, in addition to the records of the actual purchase that is made from the successful supplier. So it should be noted that informal procurement procedures are more flexible than formal procurement procedures in ways which include the fact that it is not as rigorous as formal procurement procedures, and informal procurement procedures does not require public notice, and then no closed bid requirements. So you basically obtain quotations from suppliers as to whether they can supply the goods for you and subject to a given price. So the entity does not share price quotes during the solicitation process, and there is no public opening of price quotations in informal procurement procedures. So you have learned about informal procurement procedures as well as the procurement processes under informal procurement.